this webinar.
Sorry, I'll just wanted to record the Q&A session.
Okay. So the webinar will be posted on the website. Webinar will be posted on the website. So you can take that link and you can view it later. All right.
Okay, so CACFP, if you participate in CACFP, you would be eligible to apply for the grant. If you don't, but there's another child nutrition program you're associated with, then you would be eligible to apply. If you are not associated with the child nutrition program, not eligible to apply is the answer. Okay. And then, so there's some questions similarly, would after school programs and summer camps qualify? And then daycare centers, which per your answer, again, associated with a child nutrition program. Any type of.
Right. Well, I mean, so let me say that after school programs, no. After school programs are not eligible. And what was, read that again. There was one more thing I wanted to address in there.
After school programs and summer camps.
Summer camps, right. So if the summer camp is being run by a school, right, it still has to be being run by, it still has to be a school-based thing. So if you're not like, if you don't have a classroom, then it's not going to work. I mean, it doesn't have to be like we do like summer feeding programs are eligible because the school is running the summer feeding program, right? So if you have a school and your school is running a camp with the eligible age group, then that would be something that we consider. But it have to be, that relationship needs to be clear in your application too. If it's hard for us to discern, then we're probably not going to fund it, right? It needs to be, you need to do a good job of like painting that picture.
Okay, and this question is, someone's currently serving CACFP prepackaged snack and cold meals. Could they use the grant money to upgrade their kitchen, allowing them to prepare food in our own kitchen? They can't do it because they're not licensed for that kind of food prep with the health department. They need to purchase commercial equipment to be licensed.
Right. So equipment, you would have to be saying for equipment, you need to be saying like, I'm going to get this equipment and do this project with it, not just the project is to update the kitchen. That I don't think would be eligible. Now, if you had like some programming to go with it, but it sounds like you need an inspection and everything else, so it might be a little bit complicated. That's my best answer for you there.
Great. Okay, will this grant open up again in the fall? We had 2 projects approved, but both of these applications were submitted when the grant had been open in the fall.
Yeah, no, the grant is going to stay opening in the spring. We've been trying to get it open in the spring so that we can give the full window to use the funds and not, you know, what happened before is we'd open the applications in like August or something. And by the time you get your contract, it's almost Thanksgiving. And you've missed out on a lot of opportunity to be getting some either experiences outside on a farm or in your school garden or getting some great food from local farmers. So our goal is to continue to publish this opportunity in the spring before the program's even been funded, right? Because we're going to do all of this. The budget's not even going to get passed until July 1st, right? That's when it's scheduled to pass anyway. Don't yell at me if they're late passing it, but we want folks to be able to begin the school year with a fully executed contract and access to their funds.
Great. Okay. This is sort of related again to eligible locations. Does the applicant have to be a school or school district? Can it be a nonprofit with an out-of-school program in a school?
With an out-of-school program in a school. Wow. Do you have an idea what they're talking about, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, out of school, sort of like after school programs or just extracurricular programs within a school is what I'm assuming. If you drop that question and want to clarify, you can jump in too.
Sure. Yeah. Whoever wrote the question, can you clarify what you're saying? Maybe they already left.
Maybe, yeah. We can try to sort through it and answer it when we send out notes from the call too, though.
Okay.
We already do the garden and want to add chickens. Is that eligible?
So yeah, chickens would be eligible. However, you know, be careful what you ask for, right? So if you want to have chickens, you absolutely should have, if you're not experienced in developing food safety plans, you should get somebody who is to help you look at where and how you want to keep the chickens, because especially if you also have a school garden, you got to think about the way people are going to access that area and how bacteria from their feces could spread to other areas if you're gardening. You're also going to be subject to the requirement to report illness, right? We're still struggling with highly pathogenic avian influenza, right? High path AI, they call it. So, you know, that could really affect you. And this may not be the best year to do it, but it's certainly something that we have funded before and would fund again. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have to partner with a local farm to get the produce or products you plan to use, or can you buy it from a local grocery store or farm market? Still trying to find local produce as much as possible, depending on the time of year.
So the answer for most situations is no, you may not buy it from a retail place, right? It's very confusing. It's hard to track and know. I mean, you know, like the cheese that you get from Sam's Club is not going to be Pennsylvania cheese. And you know, I've had this question quite a bit. And what I found is that most of the time folks are like talking about Walmart or Sam's Club, and they're not really sure where the stuff that they're getting came from. And that's really the point of what we're doing here, is that we do know where it came from. So there are farm markets that are like on farm markets, right? And they're selling their own stuff in those markets, and you could certainly buy from those markets. However, you need to ask, because farm markets, the larger, nicer ones that have that grocery store feel, they bring in a lot of stuff that's not from Pennsylvania. And they sell it alongside with the local stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. They're making a living, you know what I mean? But you just have to be very specific about what it is that you're getting and how you're getting it. If you're saying you're getting it from a market, but like Giant or Weiss or Carnes or any of those folks, like it, you know, we want you to work directly with a farmer. We want that connection to be made. Again, the point is to connect kids to the food system. So.
Okay. Are applicants with multiple sites only entitled to the maximum amount of $15,000?
Yes. Yep. It's one award. Again, it's one award per entity, and the maximum amount is $15,000.
Okay. Is that per entity for the project? So if two different schools in a district apply?
Right, then they are applying, but it depends. So again, this is good to cover this again, actually. So two different schools can in a school district can apply for a full $15,000 award. However, when you submit this through the single application for assistance online, and you're entering in the information for who the awardee is and who can sign the contract and all that stuff, it has to be that school building's information. I had 3 districts last year who applied. They both submitted multiple applications, and they were for different buildings, but every application was just the district's information. So they had to drop all but one of their applications when they applied, basically. So yeah, when they're asking you who your signatory authority is and you're putting in your district information, that's going to trigger that more than one award per entity problem. So just make sure that it's, you know, the person signing the contract is the principal instead of the superintendent, and you have the address of the building and not the district office and all of that stuff. And then, yeah, you can apply for multiple awards.
Is there a list of organizations that have been awarded farm to school grants from prior grant cycles?
Yes, it's right there on that page, on the farm to school grant page. About halfway down on the bottom in that gray bar, in large letters, it says grant awardees, and then it has years. You just click on there and it'll show you who's gotten awards and how much.
Okay, and then there are a few other questions still related to sort of child nutrition program participation.
Yeah.
So I'm a director at a daycare center that participates in a food program. So what do we need to do to qualify? Would I purchase fruits or veggies to be used for lunch or snack from a farmer's market, use it to sample in the classroom and talk about the product? I'm unsure what exactly is covered in the grant and what I need to do to qualify and participate.
Sure. So you're a center-based early care and education environment, and you participate in the child nutrition program. So you're good to go. And all of the above, you can do all those things. So I think the important part is again, the connection. Like when you're telling the story about your grant, then your project, you want to tell us how you're conveying, like, not, I just got the food, I'm going to give it to the kids in the end, how are you presenting it to the kids? What are you telling them about it? Is the farmer coming in to meet them and talk to them about it? Or how are we making that connection to the food system itself so that they see it and understand how they can engage it? That's the pivotal piece that will help you kind of stand out.
Okay, and a few more. Oh, yeah.
I just want to jump in. I just popped this resource in the chat, but related to that example, there's a great website, the PA Harvest of the Month, that one of our other partners works on, that has a ton of resources specific to seasonal products. You don't have to do them in the months that they're laid out, but there's like lesson plans and recipes and like interesting facts that you can share. So that's a really great project to mention in those types of activities.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great like entryway into farm to school programming. If you've never gotten local food into your cafeteria before, or into your small food service that you do in your ECE, this is a great way to introduce it and start the process of like developing relationships with farmers. And you can do that for a year or two, and then, go bigger later, say, I really want to get as much local product as I can, but this will kind of help you stick your toe in without getting the cold shock.
Okay, there are a couple questions that came in while we were chatting. So can we be in the process of applying for CACFP to apply to this? Or I guess when we apply to this, yeah.
No, I mean, it's like it says in the qualifications, you must be participating, not like about to participate. So unfortunately, these things are, this is a grant program that's created in statute, right? Which means it's written into law. So it doesn't give us, once they put it in the statute, there's no flexibility. So sorry.
And then there's, I think similarly, another question about family daycare homes. If you missed before, as long as you're participating in a child nutrition program, is there any flexibility?
Family daycare homes are not eligible. They have to be center-based.
Okay, so no.
Yeah.
Is there any flexibility with the application timeline? The current submission deadline may be a heavy lift for applicants, given it's coinciding with the end of the school year and school ECE staff are still busy during the school day.
Right. No, there's no, again, it's a published deadline. So, and when we publish things in the PA bulletin, it's like almost the same as making it a law, like we have to stick to it, so that we're creating an even playing field for everybody. So, but that's interesting to hear, that this may be not the best time for early care and education folks.
Is it flexible for future years?
No, when we publish the timeline, that's it.
Okay, and then this is related to that also. What is the grant period that the funding can be used?
Oh, great question. So it used to only be for a year, and now we have it for 2 years. So the funding is available from July 1st of 2023 until June 30th of 2025. So, your contract, you may not start working on it until August, but the funds are officially available starting in July, So we're anticipating that, we'll be working on contracts those first couple of weeks in July, and that when folks are really coming back to it, they'll have fully executed contracts and be ready to go. And one other thing too, I want to say too, in terms of things like, hey, if you're a family-based early education environment, you're not eligible. And if you're not participating in a federally managed child nutrition program, you're not eligible. And and, you know, this is the time we're doing it, we're not doing it other times. Those are just kind of like the facts as of right now, but I'm very open to hearing from folks who are looking for things to be different. Other than just it being about you. Like the argument has to be about family-based early care and education environments in general, right, across the Commonwealth, why it would be good to open it up to them, or why it would be good to disregard that. You know, and these are things we would have to get changed in the statute, and that's possible. That's possible because we didn't have the money for 2 years before we got that changed. It only used to be able to go through 5th grade, and we got that changed to 8th grade. So, so please do email me if you have some real good rationale that I can kind of aggregate and use for discussion with my colleagues here and with folks around here at the department to think about, you know, future changes to the program. But this is just the way the program's written right now, you know. Oh, I can't hear
Brings
you.
me to a recent question. Is this program forever or just for some time?
This program is for every year that they fund it. So, you know, we are doing our best to keep it funded by, you know, asking for, you know, making sure everybody reports on what they've done, and collecting those reports. And we have a St. Joe's University working with us to kind of study the aggregated impact of the program so that we can report that to the legislature to keep them interested in farm to school. And, you know, I mean, personally, I'd love to see them increase the funding, you know, and if they can increase the funding, maybe we could increase the award size or something. I don't know. But, you know, we want to see the program grow in the ways that make sense and that make a difference. So.
We have a few more questions about activities that are eligible, so I'm going to read them as a chunk. We have
Sure.
questions about planting fruit trees, using the funds to install a water source for the garden, i.e. tap into city water sprinkler system, and building a greenhouse. All eligibility questions.
Yeah, I think those are all eligible, you know. Again, let me use the water one as an example. So you have to tell a really good story in your narrative about the water. Like, why is that important? Why can't you just, you know, collect it in a rain barrel or something, you know, like tell the story of the impact of that on your garden and the kids' experience of it. And, you know, maybe it's just about the overall maintenance, and I couldn't really, it's like, I'm barely hanging on to this garden. If I could just have like handy irrigation, we could do it forever, you know, whatever it is. You have to really paint the picture for us as to why, you know, why that's important.
Can applicants reapply each year, even though the period to spend down the grant is 2 years?
Yes. And also fruit trees. Yeah, I said all of those, right? Yeah, those other ones, all of them were eligible. Yeah.
Okay, but the yes is to reapplying each year.
Yes to reapplying each year. Yep.
And then this also related to the timeline. How soon do you need to use the funds once you are awarded?
You have to use it by June 30th of 2025. So.
Right, but you don't have to start using them by any date. It's just up until that time.
Yeah, they're reimbursement grants. So, you know, you have to have like, you got to have an invoice to show you're indebted for something. Like, I bought this stuff from this farmer, here's his invoice. And, you know, in the case of public schools, you guys will just pay it, you know, and then you'll get reimbursed. But you're entitled to reimbursement once you become indebted, once you've incurred a debt for the program.
Okay. What if the district office is also in your building within the school district?
They say that again?
So if your district office happens to be in the building that you're in, but it's the address for the whole district. Because you had said, like if 2 schools are applying to use the building address, but I think this person's suggesting that the whole district address happens to be in their building.
Right. Well, then the other building should use their address, and then you'll still have 2 different addresses. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there are a couple now back to sort of questions about locations and whether they qualify. So there's some additional clarification on that out of school time question. I work for the YMCA. We run 3 programs that take place at public schools before and after school and during breaks. Are we eligible?
No. Because you're not a school. Like you have to be a school. So we would define you as a school if you are running a classroom that is anywhere from pre-K through 8th grade. So,
Okay.
yeah, I would
That's-
say there might be some leeway, like with a breakfast program or something like that, if the school was the applicant and you were a contractor. But the school would have to apply, but you could write the grant. And the school just has to administer it. You do the program work, but they do the managing the funds and all that kind of stuff. So for your morning piece, maybe if it's interacting with the school breakfast or something.
This
Might be
seems related. We're a center-based before and after school program that participates in CACFP. And then they ask, are we ineligible based on what Patrick said? Though it sounds like they would be eligible. Center-based before and after school program participating in CACFP.
But they're not a school, they're a program. They're not running classrooms. Like a pre-K classroom or kindergarten or.
Yeah, I guess we would need more clarity if you dropped this question in on the center.
Yeah, and is the person still there?
I can go back in the chat and look them up unless you are here and can respond. I think we have just a couple more questions. The using grant to purchase garden beds and shovels, that sort of falls under the equipment question, which we addressed.
Yep.
There are some questions about where to access the application, the budget, which we'll share those links out also after this call. And then will we qualify to get the grant once we complete the application? Is it guaranteed, or is this a competition where only certain centers get picked?
Yeah. So no, not everybody. Well, it depends. If we have enough money, everybody gets funded. But to be clear, people don't get picked. The applications are scored. There's a scoring matrix that is written into the statute. I don't love the scoring matrix, but we have it weighted in a way that works for us. And so, the cutoff is based on how you score your project.
And then we just have one more. I think there's still some confusion about CACFP and EC. To clarify, if you are an ECE program and receiving meals from CACFP, you are not eligible.
No, you are eligible.
You are eligible.
Because you're participating in CACFP. Yeah. Yep. I'm sorry. Maybe I said it in like a confusing way. I probably did. So I apologize.
We're also sharing the questions and answers out with this. So if it's helpful to have it written in front of you, this will all be summarized. But we're coming up on the hour, so I want to give everyone just thank you to Patrick, thank you to Sam. If you have any other questions, I'll still stay on for a few minutes. And Patrick shared his contact information, Sam shared hers, and we'll be sending out resources to registrants.
I can stay on for another 5 or 10 minutes too.
Oh, great. Okay.
And they could even come on camera and we could just talk or something if they want.
Well, that is, if you have to jump, you have to jump. I can keep reading questions, Patrick, if you want. There's still a few more in
Yeah,
here.
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Is the grant program prejudice against the smaller centers? Do you have to be big?
No, you don't at all. In fact, I think we are trying to be equitable in how we distribute with the centers. We've talked a lot about kind of keeping an eye on the balance of how the funds are distributed, that we don't, when we get to the point where there's heavier competition for the funds, that, ECEs aren't getting squeezed out, especially the little ones, that if at some point if we find it challenging, we might segregate some bit of the funds to say, all of these funds are just for ECEs, just to make sure that there's an equitable distribution.
When should or will we hear back?
So we are going to meet on May 31st, I believe, to finalize the scores of the applications. And after that, I'll take a day or two to kind of organize the spreadsheet and put in all of the important like legislative information and stuff. I compile a lot of information, like all the counties and the legislators for all of the applicants. And then it all goes to the secretary's office to get approved. That could take as much as a week. But sometimes it happens in a single day. So I would say somewhere around June 10th, 12th at the latest, that we would get approval and then send out the letters. Again, then everything kind of sits until the budget passes, because the budget will have to pass. I'm not super worried about this program, but that doesn't mean that it could not get cut. But I mean, I think, our tax revenue has been okay, and I think that it will get, and people on both sides of the aisle love Farm to School. It's a well-loved program, so I think that we'll be all right. And then once the budget passes, our contract team, which is headed by Morgan Sheffield, that's a name you'll see in emails if you win a grant, if you're awarded a grant. She will be in touch with paperwork for you to fill out, and then, doing the grant process, the contracting process with you.
You accidentally answered another question in the chat, which was, who do we submit our receipts for expenses to?
Yeah.
Okay, and then there are two sort of timeline, funding, spending questions. So do you have to wait until you get the grant to purchase items? And or if you're funded, but your expenses are incurred before July, can you still attribute them to this award? I think essentially, do you have to wait until you're approved?
If your expenses occur before July, you're out of luck, right? So, however, the term of the contract, like I said, it's going to go from July 1, 2023 to June 30, 2025. So you can be reimbursed for things that you buy after July 1st, but before your contract is executed, if it was in your proposal. If it wasn't in your proposal, then you can't get reimbursed for that. And the other thing about like getting started before you actually have your contract in your hand, but you've been awarded, right? In the contracting process, if you're not sure what your relationship is with the government, then I would hold off, because sometimes there are things that come up called a CRP block, which is a contractor responsibility program. And what that means is, your contract or a payment from the government could be held up for a whole bunch of different reasons. It could be like you owe, $25,000 in taxes, or it could be there was a little tiny checkbox on a form you filled out 3 years ago and you didn't check it, and that could hold up your payment. So when those blocks come up, you have to go and take care of whatever that issue is with the CRP team. Then they issue you a certificate of unblockage, I guess. And then you submit that to Morgan, and then the contract finishes out and you're all set to go. So that's kind of like the only cautionary tale, is that if, something like that, there could be a snag where there's a delay, and so that could goof up your timing if you're counting on like, I'm going to get the reimbursement at this time, but oops, I didn't sign this form and now I have to go back and do all this, and now it's going to be another month, so you kind of at your own risk under that's concerned. But technically, yes, as long as it's after July 1st, anything before your contract's fully executed is eligible that was included in your proposal.
Okay, and it looks like Kendra provided some context for that, which is that they need to apply for permits now to put in a water source, which is why she was asking. So,
Right.
But that sounds like you answered.
Well, let me say, as an example, yeah, I would say, I'm guessing that as a scoring committee, we would say the fees or for the permits are going to be your responsibility. Like, fees and permits are not things that we typically fund. Now, if you need some piping or a plumber or something like that, those are the sort of things that would get funded. So, yeah, that may not be something to really be too concerned about anyway.
I'll have this be the last question, but I think this might be sort of the crux of the CACFP conversation. So can you explain the difference between a center being eligible and an in-home childcare not being eligible?
Explain the difference.
That's the question. Yes.
I mean, I don't know how to answer that. Like one's eligible and the other's not. That's where the line was drawn, right? In the eligibility conversation. So yeah, like I said, I'm open to hearing perspectives and rationales about why that should be changed and kind of collecting that. I just need to understand it. I don't completely understand the concern about it, but purchase. Yes, you can email me, Christina. I will say too, I'm going to put in one more time in here. Here's the program page where somebody this is in the chat. There's the program page. And I know Sarah's going to send all this stuff out also. But also here's my email address. My personal email address, well, my personal professional email address from the government. And then also on the program page, there's a resource account for Farm to School. It's a resource account that I manage. So when you email the resource account, the reason it's better to generally mail that is because it's categorizing the thing for me in my mind. You know, these are Farm to School emails, right? And I address them. But yeah, you can also email me at my regular email address. It's totally fine. I'm going to get to you either way. I want to help you. And there was one more question I wanted to answer real quick, if you don't mind, Sarah. I saw, I think, or maybe is Eleanor Clark still on? If you want to unmute, I don't know if she's still on. No, I don't see her on here.
I see Eleanor. She's over.
Oh, you do? Okay.
I don't know. She's on my second page. Whether or not she's at her computer, I can't answer.
Is the relationship with the government for the business? I don't understand what that is, but
I think that's referring to when you were talking about if you forgot to check a box 5 years ago, or I think she's asking about whether that would refer to you, the applicant, or the business that's applying, like the school or the.
Oh yeah, no, it wouldn't be like, yeah, we're not gonna check if. Yeah, it would be for the school or the entity that is a school or the entity that's running a class that qualifies them as a school. Yeah. Because they're, you know, if we're not collecting anybody else's like social security number or anything, we're going to have the schools like either their SAP number or their FEIN. And that's where those things kind of get connected in the computer. Everybody else we'll have no idea about. All right.
Great. Well, thanks everyone for jumping on today. And again, thanks to Patrick. I think Sam has jumped off. And we will send out a recording, and I've been taking notes on these answers to your questions, and we'll send that out to you and probably reshare the links.
Okay. And also I see Peggy Ocker. I don't know if she's still in here. Peggy, she is. Peggy, if you want to give me shoot me an email or give me a call sometime, we can talk more about the family daycare thing that you mentioned in the chat there. I'd love to hear your perspective a little bit more. So
there are a couple of those, Patrick, so I can send those your way too from the chat.
Yeah, just email me and we'll set up a time to talk, you know, or you can call me. If I'm free, I'll answer. If I'm in the middle of something, then I got to call you back. But yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody. And Sarah, thank you for managing all of this. It's awesome.
Yeah. I'm excited to see how many applicants you get and hear about all the amazing Farm to School initiatives this next 2 years.
Yes. Yes. All right.
Bye all.
Have a great day.
Bye.